Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Employee Experience Reimagined with Data and Machine Learning webinar. I'm Yiling, your host for today. Today's webinar is organized by HRM Asia in partnership with Workday. Throughout the webinar today, you're welcome to post questions in a Q&A box that you see on your screen, and our speakers will be responding to your questions via the same Q&A box. So, without further ado, let's start. The pandemic has blurred the lines between personal and work, resulting in a burned-out workforce who are feeling lost, without a sense of purpose, and feeling disengaged with their organization. What's more, recent research has shown that a turnover tsunami is expected once the pandemic subsides. With these dramatic changes over the last 18 months, HR leaders have found themselves at the center of convergent crisis around rising employer expectations and managing a fluid workforce in various operating models. Let's embark on a journey together with our distinguished speakers as they'll be sharing their best practices and insights on how to make data-driven decisions to deliver meaningful employer experience and instill a culture of purpose in the workforce. Kicking off today's webinar is Dr. George Margrove, Principal Psychologist from Peakon, a Workday company, and Wong Pei Wen, Head of Solutions HCM from Workday, who will be sharing with us on the topic the Employee Experience Reset. Over to you, Pei Wen.
Morning, George, and morning, everybody. I can't be more excited about our discussion today. Employee experience is a topic that is very dear to my heart. You see, I hold a regional position, and 18 months ago, I shifted from being a frequent flyer, clocking up about 100,000 miles a year, to being confined to my desk daily and having to manage a team remotely. It was quite a life-changing experience for me, both as an employee and as a people leader.
Thanks, Peiwon. I'm looking forward to our discussion too. So, as we all know, the changes brought about by the COVID-19 crisis have altered work in some quite radical ways for many different kinds of workers. Organizations are concerned with trying to manage the impact that remote working and hybrid working have on employees to maintain or perhaps in some cases enhance how employees perform. And one aspect of this I find interesting is that while we're now more physically isolated, we've become more connected through technology than ever before. So perhaps that makes it easier to interact with colleagues we may have found it harder to speak to before. And that's certainly true in my personal opinion. And I think that we would all argue that hybrid working is going to be a much more common feature of many workplaces and jobs in the future. And there are some advantages to that for a lot of different roles and different individuals.
Right? Yes, that is probably very true. I believe that we are witnessing the rise of the largest remote workforce in history. In fact, Gartner forecasted that 32% of all employees will be working remotely by the end of 2021 versus 17% in 2019, be it a hybrid worker or a fully remote worker. So what do you think are some of the positive aspects of this new way of working?
Yes, so there's definitely been advantages for some people. Working from home, less travel time, more time to spend with family, more flexibility to arrange work around life demands, and also some evidence that people can actually be more productive at home, although that probably depends on different individuals. However, some people may have a worse working environment at home. They might have a small space, or it might be noisy or busy or hard for them to get the right equipment that they need for their work. So it's definitely a double-edged sword in some situations. And of course, not all jobs are suitable for hybrid working. Some people might have to spend the majority of their time or all their time in the workplace. And also, if there's too much time spent at home without physically seeing people, this could also lead to feelings of isolation, which could negatively affect employee experiences.
Honestly, now having adjusted to a different way of life, I find myself liking the flexibility that remote work provides. The same sentiment is also reflected in a recent McKinsey survey, where 50% of employees would actually like to work from home for 3 or more days a week. Their survey also finds that 30% of employees say that they will most likely switch jobs if they have to return to on site work full time. So as organizations start to adopt a potentially permanent adoption of remote work, they are now faced with a different dilemma. A large number of employees are languishing. Now, languishing is a term, I'm sure you're very familiar with it. It's coined by the sociologist Corey Keyes, who was struck that many people were not flourishing, but they weren't depressed either. They were indifferent and they felt demotivated. And that triples the odds that people will actually cut back on work. In the same McKinsey study, more than 49% of employees are actually feeling burnout. And this is an alarmingly high percentage that cannot be ignored. George, can you tell us more about how you think feelings of isolation can have a negative effect on employees?
Yes, certainly. So I think that this impacts many different aspects of employee experiences. So a big part of work relates to our experience of the company culture where we work. And this is about the sense of belonging, feeling part of something bigger than yourself, and whether that's part of working in a team or as a group or a division or a company overall, and also more interaction with customers. And the experiences that we have from this help give a context to behavior. It can enhance the sense of purpose and working together and collaboration. And I just fear that if there's too much remote or hybrid working, while obviously it's necessary because of what's happening in the world, it can also make it harder for organizations to engage with employees and make them feel part of that wider culture, because of the physical separation. And historically, that's been easier with employees who were based in the workplace or in offices.
Right. That is very interesting. What is it about feeling connected to the company culture that is so important for employees?
Well, that's a great question. So work makes up a big part of our lives, obviously, and for many people, it forms a part of what we call the self-concept. So what people do, where they do it, how they work, who they work with, all of this forms a part of how they think of themselves as a person, and also the relationships they have with others, so their team members, their leaders, and that visibility and the physical proximity and sense of cooperation, it makes employees feel closer and part of a greater group, something which can be very important to avoid those feelings of isolation we talked about. So in some cases, if people feel isolated from work, especially if they live alone or they don't live with family or friends, this might have quite a negative impact on their well-being and their employee experiences, and then also their sense of employee engagement with their employer. So this is something that organizations should really care about, both just as caring employers, but also simply because it can impact performance negatively. It can impact productivity, and it can also relate to increases in sickness absence and issues with well-being. So this is something that organizations are going to have to manage as hybrid working becomes more common, or even the normal way of working going forward.
This is fascinating. It is clearly a very important issue. According to Deloitte's latest millennial survey across 46 countries, over 46% of younger workers now feel that they are stressed all the time. And almost half state that their employer did nothing to help them. Now, when employees do not understand company strategy and do not have access to important information, they are not motivated. Organizations are aware that they need to elevate employee engagement. However, most of them are just not well equipped or ready to act, causing overall engagement to drop. So, George, as hybrid working becomes more normal in the future, how can organizations act to ensure the best outcomes for employees?
Well, I think personally for me, working from home is great, but I know some of my colleagues don't like it quite so much, and there really needs to be a good balance for everybody. But that balance is going to be different based on individual experiences, individual needs. So I think to make success of this future model, there are some important principles organizations will need to try and adopt. So obviously there are physical restrictions on some type of roles where people need to be in work. But if we focus on those for which there is a balance of working at home and the workplace is realistic. So the first element that's really important for organizations to ensure that employees have is choice and autonomy. So organizations need to make sure employees have control and choice over when, how, and where they work. Not total discretion, but that depends on the organization. But likely there's going to need to be a lot of leeway where employers have to allow employees to, have a choice over this. Some employees might never want to do it. Some might want to do it more. And leaders and managers should have conversations with employees to ensure that everyone's specific needs and requirements are met. So then next, which is really important, is fairness. So there needs to be a perception of fairness for employees so that they feel that the rules are equally applied across different people and that some don't feel they're being treated differently or having less opportunities than others to engage in working from home or hybrid working. Also, support career development and training. So these elements have always been critical to good employee experiences and in maintaining commitment and performance at work. And this perhaps becomes even more important with hybrid working because along with what we talked about with it being more likely that some employees are now going to seek new jobs to the great resignation that's being talked about, where employees are looking for places they can work which do offer more hybrid working or more opportunities for home working. Employers really need to ensure that employees are happy, fulfilled and developing, just like before the pandemic. So these elements are critical. And then lastly, communication. So this has obviously always been seen as very important, but it's more important now than ever before. So ensuring that employees understand what's happening at the organization, what leaders are planning, what new developments there are, and also providing information about support, working arrangements, team goals, team activities, and progress are all really, really critical. So additionally, along with all this, employee voice is also really vital. Understanding what employees think, feel, value, where things are going well, where they're not going well, where they need support, and so on. So some of this comes from manager conversations, and managers have a crucial role. But employee surveys must be carried out, and probably more often than ever before, and more flexibly than ever before, to help understand these critical issues.
Your last point seems particularly important. In fact, at Workday, we've been able to put in place programs in response to the insights that we gained from employees' surveys. For example, we recognized that employees were having Zoom fatigue and decided to implement Zoom-free Friday afternoons so people could work without interruptions. There was also a Thank You Friday, in which every other Friday was an off day between June to September. So it was a big hit with all our workmates. How do you think organizations can best use survey methods to get the most benefits for employees and themselves?
Well, employee surveys have, of course, been done for many years. And what the pandemic highlighted is that traditional survey methodologies, for example, just an annual survey once a year or even a 6 monthly pulse, do not necessarily provide regular or sensitive enough data to help make the best decisions. And each individual is different and has many different experiences over a year. And these experiences are going to differ by age, job role, country, company culture, seniority, and many other factors. And simply surveying once a year is going to unlikely to provide the sensitivity to capture all these different experiences and all these different changes. So at Peakon, we've been using more regular and more intelligent listening methods for a number of years. And these have really been a huge benefit to our customers. And these methods allow us to much more sensitively measure individual employee experiences. And when that's combined with our online dashboards and the powerful automated analytics and action recommendations we have, this gives organizations real insight and support for action. And this has been very, very important through the pandemic. So when the pandemic first started, we first thought that demand for employee voice surveys might slow down due to cutbacks because of the economic impact of the pandemic. But actually for us, the complete opposite happened. Because as more people were at home, organizations were desperate to understand what employees were experiencing through the pandemic and how they were feeling and working in their remote work situation.
That does make sense that employers would now be more interested to understand employee experiences now that there is more remote and hybrid working. So, what do you think are some of the best practices around how to do this?
Well, from the Peakon perspective, we'd like to think that our approach represents best practice and specifically to do with what we call intelligent listening. So this is a way of asking questions, which is a much more regular listening approach, and it's governed by automated algorithms, and it surveys employees much more regularly, but with far fewer questions for any individual at one time. So this means that employees feel more connected and listened to, and provides more up-to-date data about employee sentiment and supporting the need for action. But this is balanced with a much lower burden on employees, so they don't have to spend too much time answering questions or feeling like they're answering the same questions over and over again, to really give the best of both worlds. So this system also integrates with Workday. So this allows automated question deployment to individuals based on data that's held in Workday. For example, if somebody is new to the organization, they might have onboarding questions that are automatically triggered, exit questions that are automatically triggered, or any other key experiences which are held in workforce data throughout the employee lifecycle. And these are sometimes called moments that matter. And Peakon is able to do that automatically in conjunction with Workday.
I can't agree with you more here, George. Experience is everything with today's employees. This is an area where I believe the use of technology is critical to creating and sustaining positive employee experiences. In fact, 77% of millennials' productivity are impacted by poor workplace technology. At Workday, we believe in creating a connecting and digital experience that is not only simpler and more engaging, but also one that seeks to understand employees and evolve with them. So, for example, Workday has rolled out Journeys, which is designed to provide guidance to employees during moments that matter, be it a career progress check in, vaccination journey, a return to workplace journey, or even an onboarding journey for new hires who now have to go through virtual onboarding instead. Workday also provides a mobile experience for employees, as well as a Workday chatbot assistant that provides text and voice support to employees anytime, anywhere. Now, Workday's Career Hub and also the Learner Hub, on the other hand, is basically your personal digital coach that uses machine learning to recommend upskilling and reskilling opportunities based on your career interests. So we will bring Workday as well into the flow of work, such as connecting with Teams, Slack, and committing with Microsoft as well to move to Viva. And finally, with the tight integration between Workday and Peakon, we're also able to draw deeper insights, such as correlating engagement scores with business units, location, gender, and so on. Wow, George, time really flies when you're having fun. I'm so glad we have the opportunity to discuss this topic together. Thank you so much for your time today.
Likewise for me, thanks Pay One. Next up, we have a fireside chat discussion featuring Trisha, Global HR Leader, Consultant and Coach, and also Ibu Indri, CHRO from Prudential Indonesia. They'll be having a fireside chat on the topic Employee Experience for a Reimagined Workplace, how HR can take the lead. Over to you, Trisha.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. My name is Trisha Duran. I'm a global HR leader, consultant, and coach, and recently just left my old job from Unilever as head of HR for Unilever Asia. I'd like to introduce and say hello to Indri. Indri, over to you.
Hi, hello. My name is Indri. I'm the Chief HR Officer for Prudential Indonesia. I joined Prudential Indonesia 2.5 years from now. Happy to meet you all.
In relation to the whole world of the great resignation, and there's a lot of articles around people really wanting to work in a hybrid environment. The first question is, in times of uncertainty, what advice can you offer to leaders who are planning and preparing for hybrid working models?
Thank you, Tricia. I think this is the hybrid working model is, I think, the focus for almost every company right now to bring back their employee from working from home back to the office. And I think that we learn from the pandemic is that actually the needs of every individual is different, because the challenge of every individual is also different. Even though we are saying we have a hybrid model, but perhaps the hybrid model of Prudential will be different with the hybrid model of other companies, because the nature of the job is different. So I think what is really very important for the leaders is to define what hybrid means.
That's so nice advice, and I totally agree. In fact, one of the thoughts I also had is, of course, the organization must define what a hybrid work looks like for them, but also as an individual, in order to be very impactful, it would also be useful if us as individual employees define for ourselves when are the moments that we need to come to the office and when are the moments that it's actually okay not to. How do you deal with the various sentiments from employees on the return or partial return to office?
Actually, we just experiencing return to the office. This is my third week of return to the office, and I'm now in the office right now. This is my first day of this week to be in the office. So we are allowing employees to be back to the office at least once a week, just as a trial, so that they are able to understand what is actually the challenge for them. I understand that even after 3 weeks, we are having around 55% of employees already return to the office, which is very good. Yeah. And we still have remaining 45% people who still comfortable in the from home and haven't tried returning to the office. And when I ask the questions to them, of course this is really, right now being an HR, you need to keep on continuously having a conversations with the employees. I think we need to give first, show our empathy, that everybody has their own challenges, that we understand that some of them may be still not yet comfortable returning to the office. But I think this is also the job of every leaders to keep engaging and making a conversations to really, understand what how we can make this returning to the office easier. What kinds of support we the company or the line manager can give in order for the employees to be back to the office.
Yeah, that's really important, actually, the line manager's role, isn't it? Because in the end, as we agreed, everyone's personal situation is different. And I love your approach, meaning the experiment. So you open the office, just try once a week, see how you go, see how you feel, and then take it from there. So maybe, in terms of agility, we must, if we still don't have it, we must ensure there's agile tech, there's agile working spaces, and there's agile policies all there. And hopefully, for the majority of the employees, they can pick something, a combination that works for them within that framework, right? And if there's issues, then they can raise to the line manager, and then hopefully we can come up with a tailored approach. And if it still doesn't work, then I guess this is a different problem.
And I think, Trisha, if I can add to you, is also the peer-to-peer support is really very important. Peer-to-peer here means that the colleague in the in the office, the bosses, and everyone, I think need to really engage and encourage everyone to be supporting each other, because the challenge is different. I agree with you. There is no solutions, one solutions fits for all. That everybody has their own challenges. Everybody has their own preference that we need to respect. But there, if we are talking about how to really build the collaborations, then I think we should agree. So I like the way what we said, that flexibility should come with the responsibility. So when it comes into collaborations and what is really important as a team, I think everybody needs to be to be responsible to make that happen.
Agree. Very much aligned with you. Okay, let me go to the next question. and it's in to do with data and analytics. So, how are you applying data analytics to your talent retention strategies?
Thank you so much. I think this is really very important. We have been talking about data analytic in HR for I think a couple of years, but I think more and more we can learn that actually data analytic really helps. So, for example, Trisha, in our case, when we review our talent retentions, for example, it's we found out that actually the most critical retentions is when the employee is already on the year of service of two after 2 to 5. So that is actually the most critical retention. So if, for example, and that is actually can be found because we are collecting what is actually the attritions that we have, etc. And more actually right now, if somebody is thinking that I've been here for 2 years and nothing happened to me. So usually, the questions come because I would still think that first year is the year that they are learning and adapting, and the second year is they are thinking that they are able to contribute in the meaningful contributions, and third year they are asking themselves, so what next for me? So I think that is also something that I think is the employees or the employers needs to understand how to really bring the retentions better after 2 years. So that's the first. I think data analytic is also very good when it comes into understanding the demography of our employees. So, for example, during this pandemic, we can understand who is the most impacted employees with this pandemic. And we found out that actually the most impacted is the one with the kids less than 10 years because the school, etc. Against the peer-to-peer support is really very important because not everybody open about what is their problems. So I think peer-to-peer supports is where we are able to identify who has a challenge at home with all the circumstance that impacted by this pandemic.
Yeah, agree. So, I mean, I think we've never used data and analytics so much in because particularly in the pandemic, we tend to use it a bit more frequently to really try and understand employee well-being, employee needs in terms of any requirements in terms of return to work. We can actually predict the likelihood of risk for an employee to leave the company, and therefore sometimes that steers conversations as well around how we would manage career or reward, etc. So I think data is a very, very important input to our decisions these days as HR and as business leaders. Okay, so let me just go to the next question then. Boosting L&D and corporate training. This is an interesting one. How has data and analytics played a role in improving business outcomes based on learning and development?
We're glad that actually we are using, a Workday for our learning. So all the learning, e-learning module is actually coming from there, as well as is also, the scheduling of the training is also coming from there. So I think it is very easy for us to trace and to get the data about how active is our learning nowadays. So one of the finding that we found out is actually during this pandemic, the e-learning consumptions increased significantly. I think this is also picturizing that because the physical training is getting less, so people they like to access e-learning because they can choose which time that is comfortable for them to learn. And I think it's also because everybody now understand the importance also to continuously upskill their themselves or sometimes reskill themselves in making sure that they are equipped with the new knowledge that perhaps never been before. So for example, in the past 2 years in Prudential, we are campaigning about the importance of customer centricity, the importance of digital, the importance of design thinking, and all of them is actually available in our e-learning. So I think most of the people right now, even though before pandemic we have campaign about that, but maybe the needs of them to really again upskill or reskill is not as high as during this pandemic, where they know that so many changes happen and so many that even the life, the way we live is also is also changes.
Yeah,
So
agree. They say is that what we learn now has a 3-year lifespan, and the biggest disruptor has really been COVID in terms of what we thought we knew, but actually we need to be continuously learning. And the data on training, meaning it's so easy now to dig out the historical data and information, and also to see the skills gaps that people have, right? In terms of what skills and experiences they have, and what skills and experiences they probably need to get in order to be future fit. So I think data around learning and development is super key. Let's pivot to a conversation around languishing. So there's this very popular article in the New York Times which talked about languishing, which is kind of like the state between not really quite depressed, but also not really quite motivation. So you're just feeling a bit off, and apparently that's called languishing. And so the first question is, what is, one of the antidotes to languishing apparently is finding meaning and finding purpose. So what is purpose driven leadership, and why and how do we need to make the shift?
very good questions, Tricia, and I like that article languishings as well. I think nowadays it's really very important to really have the purpose. Everyone to have the purpose is really very important. Why? Because previously we are motivated when you are wake up in the morning and you do things in order to prepare for you to be in the office, and then you go to the office, you meet people, so that motivates you. Nowadays you are just moving from one room to another, is your from bedroom to the living rooms, because or to the the small office that you have at home, for example, if you have that. So I even experienced that. I myself experienced that. Oh my gosh, I am doing the same thing every day, facing the same laptop, the same chair, the same table. I think it's really because the changes that that impacted by this pandemic is huge. It's just like a resetting the world, the way we live, the way we work, the way we learn, the way we build a relationship, all changing. So how we anticipate that? I think purpose is what make us feeling motivated every day when we wake up to do something, regardless where we are doing and what we are doing. But as long as this is how bring us closer to the purpose that we have, that that will motivate us. So I think why purpose now is getting more important for everybody is really because everybody have to have their own motivations on why they do what they do, and their own motivations is supposedly their purpose. And it will be great if their purpose can be matched with the purpose of the company. And that's why when they need to do things every day, what makes them awake and motivated is because what they do in the company is bringing them closer to their own purpose.
One of the things I lead personally is just making sure that everyone in the organization does discover their purpose. In fact, people with purpose really thrive, as you said. So once they have meaning, they really, really thrive. And then they become infectious to their other colleagues and their other family members. And suddenly this whole languishing becomes a thing of the past because they feel like they're making a contribution not just to themselves but to others as well, right? Any views around how to foster um, a workplace of belonging and purpose belonging in the workplace and how to help employees to discover their purpose?
So this is really very important. It has to start from the leader first, Tricia. So we did exercise of finding the purpose to our leaders before the pandemic. Why it has to start from the leader? Because only the one who finding the purpose is become a selfless. If my leader is having a selfless, behavior, then from what we experience, it will motivate everyone to really inspire and follow their leaders. We also encourage leaders to help their team to find their own purpose as well. So I think that's how we are doing it in our company.
I think that now the soft stuff has become hardlined and hardwired into making us wonderful leaders. It's not that we can only do the skills of the job, we actually also make it purposeful for ourselves and for others so that they can thrive and the company grows. You know, Andri, it's been so nice talking to you. We have reached the end of our Q&A, and thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Tricia. Thank you. I enjoy a lot our conversations. I hope you find our sharing insightful. Let's welcome to the next speaker, Dominic Chia from Workday, who will be sharing on data-infused insights to engage a hybrid workforce.
Hi, I'm Dominic Chia. I'm a pre-sale consultant with Workday. Thank you for joining us. I've been with Workday the last 8 years, and this morning I'm going to take you through a sneak peek of Workday to share with you how we do data-infused insights. And I play several roles for this session. So I'll log in first as Marcus Severino. He's an employee. So he's an employee logging into Workday, and let's take a look what that holds for him. So let me go in there and sign in as Marcus Severino. So upon logging in into Workday, machine learning is in play. So Workday knows who I am, what I do in the organization. It surfaces out necessary cards and info that will help me and guide me along in what I need to do for the day. This is called Workday Today, and there's machine learning in play, just to let you know. So it's very much like you going to buy breakfast at your favorite breakfast store, all right? And then the lady knows your order even before you could tell her. That's the beauty of it. We want employees to enjoy using Workday, all right? So first and foremost, you can see several cards here. So there are some journeys awaiting me. So I'll share with you what journeys are all about. And also notice Workday is able to suggest timely items that needs my attention. So in this case, for example, it's like learning. There are also quick tasks that are available. It knows what I frequently access in Workday. It surfaces out this for me as well. Right? As I scroll through, I can see announcements. I can see items that are recommended for me as well. And in Workday, this is my landing page. You'll notice when you use Workday, there are really no menus per se. It's guided by this speed of thought navigation. So for example, if something comes to mind, like if I want to do performance review, I only need to key in the first 3 letters of each word, and the necessary items will appear. So let's go into my journeys first. Today, I'm an employee, and I'm interested to develop myself both as a mentor and maybe as a mentee. So journeys are surfaced out to me based on events. So in this case, I have this journey that's pushed out to me. All right, so I got 2 journeys waiting for me, one of which is a mentorship journey, and the other is a building belonging journey. Let's focus on the mentorship journey for this morning. So I'm interested to be a mentor. This is where I can tell the system or update the system about myself, whether to update my photo, update my career profile. Let's not do that for today. Maybe I'm interested to learn more about mentorship, right? What it takes to be a great mentor, for example. So there's recommended learning as part of my journey. So I can open these details here. And then I can open learning. And this jumps into Workday learning because we are on a single unified platform. The experience is the same, right? It knows who I am, what I do. It surfaces out all this training that's suitable for this journey itself. So this is an external course here. I can choose to enroll it into it if I want to. Yeah. So I can enroll in the course to say, okay, maybe I'm going to enroll this course to know how to be a great mentor. Assuming we fast forward and I've actually got a mentee already, I can log my mentorship meeting with that mentee here, or maybe I want to give feedback to the mentee. But at the same time, I realized that I have to head to the airport to catch a flight. All right, so I will do this part on my mobile device. So let's stop this for now and let's get myself to the airport. So I want to give feedback to a mentee, in this case, Amanda Baker. Assuming Amanda Baker is a mentee of mine, I can actually tap on this and proceed to give feedback to her. Identifying who is Amanda, I can actually search for Amanda here, right? And Workday will tell me, will surface out Amanda Baker, and then I can click next to provide feedback. So here is where I can actually type and chat with Workday Assistant, or I can use my voice to interact with Workday Assistant. So let's take a look. Let's converse with Workday Assistant. Show all capabilities.
Here is everything I can do in Workday.
Let's give feedback to Amanda Baker. And I use natural language for that. Let's take a look how that is done. Give feedback to Amanda Baker.
Great. Your feedback will display your name and be visible to everyone. Don't worry, you'll be able to confirm before posting. Go ahead and write your feedback for Amanda Baker.
Thank you very much for being a great mentee the past 3 months.
What badge would you like to add?
I could fill in the feedback naturally. Thank you very much for being a great mentee for the past 3 months. And now Workday is asking me to give Amanda Baker a badge. So Workday, we can configure different badges. So these are bragging badges, so to speak. So I can give a badge here and say thank you.
Perfect. Here's your feedback for Amanda Baker. Again, this will display your name and be visible to everyone, and include the thank you badge. Post feedback. Posted. You can always see your feedback on Amanda Baker's profile.
So immediately, as a mentor, I can see the mentees that I manage. For example, here I can see these are all the mentees. Okay, and this is using Peakon. Peakon is our product that we acquired recently. All right, and this uses Peakon offers continuous listening, continuous feedback. It's a mechanism built into Workday where we can hear from the employees, and in this case, pertaining to mentorship in itself. So, for example, for a particular mentee here, I see Donald Butler. This is his feedback circle. If I wanted to focus on Donald Butler in itself, I can drill down to Donald in itself. I can see the feedback provided by his feedback circle, comments that he has received, so on and so forth, all the different details about the inputs that he has gotten, right? The development priorities, and all these are configurable, the highest scoring behavior, so on and so forth, right? I can even drill down to behaviors here to take a look what is his self-strength versus what his circle has assessed him to have, all right? And all the details here, okay? So Peakon is continuous listening, continuous feedback, providing for different areas. In this case, it's all about mentorship and growth, okay? Separately in Peakon, I can also see engagement. I can use Peakon to determine the engagement for the employee itself. So for example, I wanted to know my engagement level. I've completed a survey that Peakon has pushed to me. Now I can go into my personal dashboard to take a look what's my engagement level. So this is based on my surveys. Yeah. So based on the survey that's given to me, I provided all the necessary response, and this is my engagement score. So 6.5. It tells me this is me, 6.5, and my organization overall is 7.3. So it tells me where I'm placed in the organization. Okay. So I can see these details, and I can see where compare my experience. I can see where my engagement level for various items that I'm being asked to rate. Yeah, I've left comments. I can see show all the scores as well. I can see the full details of all the info I provided. I can look at the environment. I rated a 7.3 for my engagement. My organization is 7.9, for example. I can see precisely where I stand and why I have gotten this score based on the inputs I provided. Yeah. Not only that, if I'm a manager, for example, or if I'm an administrator, I could see the engagement score across the entire organization. So let's go into engage. So I'm just giving you a different view of it. What you saw just now was just my personal engagement, but I could see the engagement across the entire organization. And this shows me at one glance, for example, the different offices I have, location, and also the different drivers that I want to measure, whether my employees are engaged or not, right? So straight away, I can see that the folks in Paris are not very engaged, 4.3, for example. And I could actually drill down to find out greater details, providing me the necessary insights. Why are the folks in Paris not engaged? So I could drill down, I can get my questions answered, I can see why, what are the drivers, so on and so forth. So this is where the data-infused insight is available in the Workday for me to make decisions on how I want to handle the folks in Paris. Next, let me play the role of an administrator. I wanted to see the data that I've acquired from my surveys. How is that correlated to the data that I have in the organization? So let me log in as an manager here. Logan McNeil, she's a manager administrator role. All right. And let me very quickly go into a particular dashboard. Okay, so this is a dashboard that I want to share with you. So upon logging in as an administrator or a manager, I can immediately see this dashboard. And at one glance, I'm looking at both my engagement data and my organization data. But let's take it a step at a time first. Let's look at the Workday data first. And this is data about my employees' movement in the organization. In which department or which tenure organization are my people moving compared to compare ratio based on length of service, what are the movement trends, the top 10 cost center that's got the most movement, and we can infuse and blend them together to give me a holistic view. So at one glance, I can relate my folks' turnover. Is it because of engagement level that is low? All right, so on and so forth. So I'm able to see this correlated data. So at one glance, I can see for various organizations, is it because they're engaged or not engaged? Yeah, peak on turnover is 10%. So it gives me a clue there that, okay, folks in Atlanta, for example, are probably not so satisfied. Their engagement level is very low, for example, and that's the reason why they've left. So I can see this correlation. This gives me a view of the entire snapshot, a holistic view of all this data from which I can make the necessary decisions. Yeah. So this in essence is what I wanted to cover for this session this morning. And for now, I'll hand over the floor to Pei-Won, who will wrap up this for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Dom. Wow, time really flies. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying till the end. I hope that you've enjoyed the sessions throughout the day. I have the opportunity to do a closing for today, and I must say that I've learned so much from all the speakers. Now, for CHROs, I'm just absolutely full of respect for all of you. There's never been so much pressure playing additional roles such as Chief Change Officer, Chief Crisis Officer, Chief Experience Officer, and Chief Data Officer. There's hardly any time to rest. You need a return to work plan, how to make hybrid work model work, ensuring diversity and inclusion, while all this time, experts are already predicting massive employee turnover this year and beyond. From my discussion today with Dr. George, as well as the fireside chat between Tricia and Ibu Indri, it is clear that employee experience now ranks as a top priority for every CEO, CHRO, and CIO. Gartner predicts that by 2022, 75% of organizations will include employee experience improvement as a performance objective for HR and for IT. It is really enlightening to hear about Prudential Indonesia's efforts in engaging their employees, right, where they foster a workplace of belonging, as well as helping their employees discover their purpose. However, many organizations are still struggling in this area, and they are mainly because of these five reasons. Firstly, people struggle with maintaining connection and productivity in this new world of work and digital workspaces. So, for example, short-lived or subpar onboarding experiences, especially virtual ones, may leave employees feeling disconnected. Now, what employees need is a solution that meets their fundamental needs through personalization and prediction. Second, organizations are now looking at strategies to promote mental and physical well being of their employees. 41% of the people said they would take a pay cut if their company invested more in their health and well being. On the other hand, organizations that don't focus on well being often see lower productivity, higher absenteeism, and higher attrition. Third, employees without a sense of belonging or inclusivity do not fully contribute to the organization. High belonging was actually linked to 56% increase in job performance, 50% drop in turnover risk, and 75% in reduction in sick days. And fourth, challenge in motivating and engaging employees. 1 in 5 employees are highly engaged, yet they are still at risk of burnout. Meanwhile, leaders are also asking, how do I focus on motivating my people when I don't even know who isn't motivated? And finally, complex systems, unhealthy work environments, inadequate belonging measures, and lack of leader training restrict people from delivering performance and reaching self actualization. Employees want to feel recognized and they want to be rewarded for their contributions and that they are actually bringing value to the organization that they belong in. In response to these challenges, Workday helps organizations redefine what a great employee experience should be. So, at the base of our employee experience pyramid is engagement. Those basic needs that need to be met before moving up. So, what is engagement? At this base level, we need to provide a friction free way to interact with simple access to basic self service, connections to relevant content, and the ability to find answers when needed. So, when we get those basic self service requests right, such as viewing a paycheck or entering a leave request, we create a foundation of engagement. You immediately reduce the barriers because your employees and your managers are actually using the system. So when the basics are met, we then move on to the second level, which is empathizing with employees, ensuring a physical and psychological safety, wellness and well-being, providing them with benefits, and also listening and acting on feedback so employees feel heard and valued. So with Peakon, we extend our ability to continuously listen to what matters most to employees, to understand personalized sentiments and how it changes over time. You'll know what matters to each person and how to impact experience leveraging on Workday journeys as well as Workday help. At the next level, we call embraced. As an organization, do you understand where you are today based on demographic data and metrics? And also, how are your employees feeling? Can you create focused action plans that addresses the critical issues? From people analytics, from Vibe to Peakon, there are various delivered solutions from Workday to help you understand where you are today and create those focused action plans. Now we move on to empowered. From insights on compensation to career and progress check-ins, mentorship, effective experience strategies, all of this empower HR and employees to drive career guide development, as well as delivering rewards and recognition that actually make an impact to them. Employees, they want to be empowered, right? And they want to be able to identify opportunities as well as take action on their own. This is supported through Workday's talent and performance as well as compensation. Which brings us now to the top of the pyramid, where employees are energized, where they feel they have the personalized information they need to perform effectively and to change and grow. So we're talking about targeted journeys based on continuous listening as well as demographic data about people. So we're also talking about recommendations that are backed by machine learning, right? Things like Workday's Career Hub that you saw Dom demo earlier, Talent Marketplace, as well as a Learning Hub. All of these see it all come together. So in order to deliver this pyramid and realize the potential, you need an active and integrated experience strategy where you are actively listening. And this is what we get by adding intelligent listening capabilities of Peakon to the deep data and personalized interaction in Workday. By layering this listening into the equation, we get actionable information that leaders desperately need to bring about a remarkable employee experience for your people. So, thank you very much. And again, I want to thank you for spending the time with us this morning. We truly appreciate your attendance, and I hope that you enjoyed the sharing today. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Peiwen. We've come to the end of the webinar. Thank you to our wonderful speakers for your sharing and to our attendees. Hope that this hour-long journey together has inspired you with new ideas and insights. Have a good day ahead. See you next time. Goodbye.